Our second in this early series of videos that I wanted to make sure to get across to us all is this concept of charity and what charity might mean for us, and in an argumentative writing kind of course. This again is another one of those internal issues. We started with humility in our first video. The second video, charity, neither one of these things can you touch or see, but you can see the results of it. And I think that's really powerful for us to consider as we consider making an argument. What does it mean to be charitable in making an argument? So I wanted to make sure to do the same thing that I did with humility at the beginning of our course, and this with charity, to begin with an understanding of the definition and then give 5 basic ideas and principles of where we might go from here. So the backdrop to this particular word is very distinctive. It comes from a Latin word which is caritas and from a Greek word which is agape. And it has a decidedly Christian point of view. That is, it comes from Saint Valentine. There was a person in history called Saint Valentine, and a day was named after him because of a feast that he initiated. It's important then, as we even think about Valentine's Day just coming up, that this is important for us as we think about how do we develop the internal nature of our own person before we begin to make an argument. So we start with humility. Our second emphasis is going to be on charity. What does that mean? The first point in this is that it should develop our character. Remember a moment ago I said it should develop the internal nature of our person. And by that I mean the character and the habits that we form in the way that we think. Now this is something that comes from the inside out. It's something that's developed within us. It shouldn't be top down and invested from an external point of view, but from within us as people. We then should value virtue over value. And I would emphasize that, once again, you might not know what all of these words mean. For instance, the difference between virtue and value. If you want to go and check those things out, really important. But I'm a big virtue advocate, not a value advocate. And you might want to go and find out why that might be. Then we talk about interiority over the external nature of a person. And by interiority, I'm talking about that character development aspect that's really important. So number one, when we talk about the issue of charity, it's what comes from within us. It's something that's built into our character. The second idea is that, very close to this, is that it's a very much of an others-centered point of view. It's not about us. So I'm offering 2 ideas here within this charity as others-centered. Namely, that we are defending people who could be hurt by ideas. To me, this is a crucial component to making an argument. How are we going to make an argument, a discussion point, that will persuade people to our point of view so that other people might not be hurt? And at the same time, how are we going to profit people with what might help them? That's crucial and something that I think we ought to all be considering as we're making our arguments in our papers. The third idea, charity is support initiating. That is that we are doing good for people. Now, good could mean lots of different things to different folks, but I suspect that if we see a fireman running into a burning building, that we would consider that to be good. So consider something being on fire and then doing something good to stop it. That might give us a physical idea of what we're talking about here. We are adding to a conversation, so we're supporting whatever the conversation is that our perspective might be. And then, of course, we are writing toward the flourishing of people. Now, when we talk about flourishing, we're talking about something that's beneficial to them, not detrimental to them. So once again, a support initiating process, the idea of charity. And then number 4 is that charity is action-oriented. It is not a feeling. My love for people isn't something that I simply say, well, I feel like I love you. No, I demonstrate it by my actions, and that's crucial. We live in such an emotive culture where everybody has their feelings literally right on their arms. They literally wear them on their sleeve, is the old adage. And we ought not to do that as we think about the kinds of arguments that we want to make to persuade people. And then, of course, our writing should prompt doing. So it's not simply a nice idea that we might have, but it's an idea that can literally be enacted. Number 5, charity is community enabling. That is, we are working with other scholars and students. So when you begin to think about doing research, and we'll talk more about this in the coming weeks, what does it mean to do research? Some of you might already have some really good history with this. We're talking about going to peer-reviewed journal articles. We're doing some heavy-duty research to find out what the people that are doing the work in the field are interested in. And we are concerned with doing this with ourselves. That is, we're going to be invested within peer review, and you're going to be talking with each other about the ideas that you have. It's communal. It's also convivial. Remember, I keep saying that there are really cool words I might mention I'm not going to define in a video. Well, there's another one. The idea of community enabling is that this ought to be a process that's convivial with other people. There should be an invitational beckoning. Come to this discussion. Come sit at the table with us. A hospitality in writing. You're literally opening the home of your ideas to other people so that you might have a discussion about them. And then this persuasion through thinking together is really crucial, the emphasis on charity. Well, what does all of this mean for us? It means that your words carry weight. And the great question that I think every single one of us ought to be asking is, are we helping or are we hurting? Are we simply yelling and screaming at people on the Twitter band? Or are we developing ideas that we can share in common in community with the people that live next door to us, and then display that kind of generosity of spirit through our charity and through our humility with others? These two concepts are the opening ideas within this whole course of argumentative writing, because I wanted to show you that the idea of how we come to argument is about being humble and about being charitable.